It says in Greece, there's been earthquakes. All right. It said as Greece declares emergency over Santorini earthquakes, what's next? All right. The island has been experiencing near constant tremors since late January, with thousands of earthquakes recorded. So they've been having non-stop earthquakes and tremors since late January, right? Since I think it goes on to say like the 21st, maybe it's the 27th. But Santorini's an island, is about to point it out, all right? So it says the Greek island of Santorini has been placed in a state of emergency after experiencing its strongest earthquake following days of continuous tremors. It says a magnitude 5.2 quake struck Santorini on Wednesday evening, right? So what date would that have been? That would have been the 5th, all right? The first to surpass 5.0 since tremors began last week. On Thursday, 2 larger tremors jolted the island, each exceeding a magnitude of 4.0. All right, so you had a big one, a 5.2 on Wednesday, and then 2 more that, were pretty big on Thursday. All right, so it said Santorini's last major earthquake, a magnitude of 7.5 tremor in 1956, killed at least 53 people. Here's what we know so far. So what's happening in Santorini, the island, one of Greece's Cyclades Islands in the Aegean Sea, has been experiencing near constant tremor since January 27th, 2025. Yeah, so it was the 27th, with thousands of earthquakes recorded so far. So the 27th would have been like last Monday. Not this past Monday of this week, but the Monday previous. All right. It says the most powerful earthquake recorded since then, occurring on Wednesday evening, registered a magnitude of 5.2 on the Richter. Magnitude measures the size of an earthquake with increments represented by decimal points. An earthquake of magnitude 6.0 or higher is classified as severe, while a magnitude of 5.2 is considered moderate, right? So it's not an insane earthquake, right? It's not devastating, but it is significant because they've had thousands of these over the past week or so. Maybe they will just keep growing, right? Santorini is situated along the Hellenic volcanic arc, which extends from the Peloponnese in southern Greece through the Cyclades Islands. The region is also home to 2 volcanoes, Nea Kameni, a small islet within Santorini's caldera, and Colombo, an underwater volcano located approximately 8 kilometers northeast of the island, right? So they're pretty close to a volcano, or to a couple volcanoes as well. All right. They did have a map on here. Yeah, so we'll get to that here in a second. Where are the epicenters of the earthquakes affecting Santorini? The earthquake epicenters are concentrated in a growing cluster between Santorini, Anafi, Amorgos, and Ios Islands. Seismic activity remains concentrated between Santorini and the nearby island of Amorgos. The epicenters are located beneath the seabed, which is good news. I mean, you say that's good news, but if there comes like a 7 or higher when it comes to earthquake, then that's a tsunami for the whole region. So that's not very good. According to scientists, land-based earthquakes generally cause greater destruction. Greece lies in a highly seismically active part of the world, and earthquakes are not rare. All right, so here you've got a map of Santorini and the nearby islands and where the earthquakes are coming from. All right, so I'm not going to go all the way through this article because it's not the main story that we want to touch on, but it is important because Christ spoke about things like this in the last days. Starting with verse 6 here in Matthew 24, he says, "And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars, so that ye be not troubled. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet." Right, so just because you've been hearing about wars, especially since World War II, America has been involved in many different wars, all right? But the end has not come yet, right? "For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be famines, and pestilences, and earthquakes in diverse places. All these are the beginning of sorrows, right? So we're just in the beginning of sorrows at this point, all right? So from there, we can get rid of that article. And I guess all these are pretty much related, all right? So we'll watch, or rather, we'll get into this article right here. We're not going to watch the video, but we'll get into this article. It says, world leaders react to Trump's sanctions on the International Criminal Court. Now, we covered this a while back. A few weeks ago, we covered this when the ICC, the International Criminal Court, put out warrants for the arrest of Bibi Netanyahu and Joab Gallant, all right, for war crimes over there in Gaza, all right? And we said it even at the time. I said it even at the time that, you know, America's not going to like this. And even at the time, Biden's White House had said, hey, we don't really like this. The fact that the ICC is, you know, said something negatively against our allies, all right? So now Trump has put sanctions on the ICC, all right? So it said, countries condemn U.S. sanctions on the ICC, alleging impunity for serious crimes and weakening international law. So this article is about how different countries are reacting to Trump's sanctions on the ICC, all right? So it's kind of going to cover two birds with one stone here, all right? Because I think Trump just announced the sanctions either yesterday or today, but you already have countries reacting to that. So it says, your favorite president of mine, or DJT, decision to sanction the ICC increases the risk of impunity for serious crimes. 79 parties to the global tribunal have said. So I don't even think this is a live updated article. I don't even know if there has been any updates to it, but at least 79 different countries have said, what are you talking about, Trump? Why are you doing this to the ICC? You can't do this to the ICC. All right, so in a statement on Friday, a group of 79 countries, about 2/3 of the court's membership, affirmed its support for the ICC and said that sanctions would weaken international law. After Trump signed an executive order sanctioning the court for investigating Israel, right? So Trump said, hey, look, we're going to put these sanctions on. If you're one of our enemies, right? If you speak negatively about our allies, you're one of our enemies, right? So he's like, well, we're going to put sanctions on you just like we'd do, you know, Iran or Russia, right? Such measures increase the risk of impunity for the most serious crimes and threaten to erode the international rule of law, which is crucial for promoting global order and security. Right? So they said, look, the whole reason why the ICC was established was so that we could have a unified standard across the world, right? And you putting sanctions on this ICC kind of erodes the opportunity of that, right? Kind of devalues their word on things, all right? So there was a joint statement led by Slovenia, Luxembourg, Mexico, Sierra Leone, and Vanuatu, right? So last year, or maybe the year previous, Mexico was being courted by BRICS, right? Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, and their coalition of nations to say, hey, look, join with us and, become trade partners with us instead of the U.S. And it seems that with everything Trump is doing, he's kind of pushing Mexico to that side, right? As opposed to keeping Mexico on the side of, the West. When I say the West, of course, I'm talking about America and Israel, basically. Because those are the sides, and I've been talking about this for months now. Those are the sides that are forming, all right? It's basically America and Israel versus everyone else in the world when it comes to this World War III that's coming, all right? America's going to have its allies. The way that Trump is talking, Canada's not even going to be a country anymore, so you can't even say that's an ally, but, that state is going to be its ally. And as we keep reading. So this joint statement was led by Slovenia, Luxembourg, Mexico, Sierra Leone, and Vanuatu. They were joined by dozens of other nations, including the UK, France, Germany, Canada, Brazil, and Bangladesh, right? So even Canada at this point, they are not wanting to become a 51st state, right? They are not on board with that. So even they're siding with, or I should say against America on this, because it's basically America versus Israel in the whole world. That's the way this decision is forming, all right? Because obviously the leader of the state of Israel, right, Bibi Netanyahu, he doesn't agree with this sanction, or not. I shouldn't say that. He doesn't agree with this decision. He more than likely does agree with this sanction, all right. But Trump's putting this sanction, like, those are pretty much the only two nations that actually agree with this sanction that was put on the ICC. Everyone else is saying, hey, look, you can't just treat the ICC like that because they're supposed to be our standard globally, all right. Even people like the UK and France and Germany and Canada to that extent, you would think they would be on the side of America in these signs that are, taking shape right now. But they said, look, even we can't get down with this. Even this is too far, right? So it literally may just be, when it comes to World War III, it literally may just be the U.S. and Israel, and then against everybody else. I mean, I would expect, at least initially, the UK, France, and Germany and Canada would initially be on the side of, the West, be on the side of the U.S., but not when Trump is doing things like this. They don't want to side with him when he's doing things like this, all right? Today, the court is facing unprecedented challenges, right? So this is a very big deal in the eyes of the people who run countries and in the eyes of the people who actually have dealings with the ICC. All right? This statement warned after Trump on Tuesday ordered asset freezes and travel bans against ICC officials, employees, and their family members, along with anyone deemed to have helped the court's investigations. He said it right there. So he said, look, anybody who even investigated our allies, you can't travel. Like, what did it say? Asset for, you can't use your money, right? It's crazy because, like, they'll come after people who be like, Jewish people run the banks, right? Because that's a big thing that people say. But you're not helping your case at all. Is when you criticize the state of Israel to the extent the ICC did, you freeze all their assets. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that is not helping your case at all to try to stop, quote unquote anti-Semitism. And these travel bans, right? Like, America runs all the airports anyway, so that's very apparent. And any of these major global banks are actually American-owned banks as well. But anyway, here's how this is. In the eyes of even places like the UK, France, Germany, and Canada, right? Brazil is part of BRICS, so you kind of expect them to be against America on this, right? Or in anything, considering this conflict that's brewing. But they said, look, this is way too far. You cannot do this, all right? Sanctions could jeopardize the confidentiality of sensitive information and the safety of those involved, including victims, witnesses, and court officials, many of whom are our nationals, right? So all these different nations, like the UK, France, Germany, Canada, Brazil, Bangladesh, Slovenia, Luxembourg, Mexico, Sierra Leone, and Vanuatu, right? They said, look, a lot of these people that you're putting these sanctions on, there are people, right? Like, you can't... They said, look, you can't do that. We can't be on board with this. You're freezing their assets in our country, in our countries, right? That's hurting our economy. You're putting travel bans on them from leaving and coming into our country, right? That's hurting our economy. That's hurting, you know what I mean? So, and some of these countries aren't major world players, aren't like global players on like a global stage. They aren't like big countries, so to speak. But like the UK, Brazil, Germany, and France, they really are. They are like major world players, all right? And they said, look, U.S., this is going too far. Like, you cannot do this. Let's see. As strong supporters of the ICC, right? Because everybody, and the U.S., like, historically has been a strong supporter of the ICC. And they have been basically, I wouldn't necessarily say on the U.S. payroll, but they've been on the U.S. payroll. You know what I mean? They've really supported all the U.S.'s endeavors overseas, right? When the U.S. needed what's the word I'm looking for? Moral support, I guess. When the U.S. needed justification for like invading some of these foreign nations that they have over the past few decades, the ICC would be there to say, hey, look, these nations are doing certain types of things that we don't get down with. We need somebody to go in and take care of things. And that's when the U.S. would step up and say, okay, we'll do it, right? But now, since it's one of the U.S.'s allies, since it's the U.S.'s major ally, especially in the Middle East, they said, no, ICC, you gotta be reined in. It's not the state of Israel that needs to be reined in. It's the ICC that needs to be reined in. Right? Crazy. But these other nations said, as strong supporters of the ICC, we regret any attempts to undermine the court's independence, integrity, and impartiality. Right? So the court's like, hey, we're just doing our jobs. These nations who support the court's decision said, hey, what are you doing putting sanctions on the ICC? They're supposed to be independent and impartial. Right? They're supposed to just show the world integrity. But the U.S. said, no, we don't know nothing about integrity. We don't care nothing about integrity. The state of Israel don't care nothing about integrity. We're trying to accomplish a goal here. While the U.S. has long pitched itself as the guarantor, weird word, of an international order that promotes human rights and the rule of law, it has frequently attacked efforts by the international bodies to probe alleged abuses by the U.S. and its allies. Obviously, because the U.S. likes to put up a front, put up a facade of being the, promoter of human rights and the rule of law and democracy to everyone. The U.S. don't care nothing about none of that. Never has. All right? The veil is just being lifted here in these last days. And I'll get into that here shortly. The veil is being lifted here in these last days, and everybody's going to see it. Everybody's going to see the nakedness of America, so to speak. All right. In the executive order imposing sanctions, the Trump administration said that it would bring tangible and significant consequences for illegitimate and baseless actions targeting America and our close ally, Israel. I thought that said closest ally. I was about to say, dang, you just condemned yourself there. But still, it probably, in this current situation that's going on here, the state of Israel is America's closest ally. Without a doubt, because nobody else supports this decision that America is doing here. All right, just America and Israel, right? It says, while Trump is the first U.S. president to sanction the ICC, his Democratic predecessor, Joe Biden, also considered the use of sanctions to penalize the court for investigating Israel. You see that right there? And that shows you that this is not a Republican or Democrat thing. This isn't let's hate on Trump because he's so wicked and evil. Trump just represents the America that is presently, here in this current time, right? Trump is just a representation of what the American people are like at this point. All right, it could have been Biden, it could have been Trump, it could have been Kamala, it could have been anybody, but they would have still done something similar to this because that's where things are headed. All right, it just so happened to be Trump and his personification of Esau, right? As I've been saying for the longest time now. All right. It's all coming to a head with this World War III. All right? And that's what's brewing. That's what's happening. All right? And we're about to get into that as well. How much is left? Let's see. I'll read this for sure. In November, the ICC issued warrants for Israel's Prime Minister, Bibi Netanyahu, and former Defense Minister, Yoav Gallant, for alleged war crimes in Gaza, where Israel has carried out a scorched earth campaign that has killed thousands, leveled entire neighborhoods, displaced millions of people, and included the widespread denial of humanitarian aid. Yeah. And as I've been saying for the longest time, you may think the way that I'm bringing this out, or that even the way that this article is bringing it out, I don't know about this, the people who wrote this specifically, but they think that if you're critical of the state of Israel, then you must love Hamas, you must love Hezbollah and the Houthis and all the Ishmaelites over there doing their wickedness. And no, that has never been the stance here. That has never been my take. My take is that they're all wicked, they're all evil, they're all going to burn, essentially. They're all going to culminate with this war in World War III. And in that, many people going to die. By the end of it, when them nukes start flying, it's probably going to be billions is going to die, because Judgment Day is going to do that. Christ is going to come back to judge the earth, and he's going to kill those wicked Ishmaelites. He's going to kill those wicked Edomites who took the land. He's going to kill the wicked here in America and deliver the righteous from all over the world. That's what it's culminating to, and we're going to see that in the scriptures. All right. Oh, I didn't know it had reached up to 60,000. It said at least 61,000 Palestinians have been killed by Israeli attacks. Most of them women and children. I didn't know most of. Well, I guess it makes sense, because I know that at one point when the number was only 40,000, I know that it was 40% of that was minors. So it makes sense that most of them would be women and children. But yeah, that's insane. A figure that is expected to rise considerably as rescue workers search through the rubble for undiscovered bodies. Right, so they could. It could be a situation where they find more people that they didn't realize were killed in all this. All right. So it also says the ICC also issued arrest warrants for leaders of the Palestinian armed group Hamas for alleged war crimes committed during the attack on southern Israel on October 7, 2023. Right. So the ICC has been unbiased in this. All right. They said they condemned Hamas back when that happened. Right. But then they said, hey, the state of Israel, they've gone too far. This is not just about Israel defending itself. This is about the state of Israel committing war crimes as well, just like Hamas, right? So they have that unbiased take of both sides have done wickedness, all right? Trump's International Criminal Court Trump sanctions put the U.S. on the side of war criminals at expense of victims. So Omar Shakir, Israel-Palestine director at Human Rights Watch, said, sanctions are for perpetrators, not those working to hold them to account. States should defend the ICC for doing its job, ensuring no one is above the law. And see, that's what all those nations said, right? That's what they said in the statement up here that we was talking about, all right? It said Dutch Prime Minister Dick Schoof said his country would seek to ensure the ICC, based in The Hague, could continue to operate despite announced U.S. sanctions. Right, so it would appear all the European nations are saying, what are you doing, Trump? You should support the ICC like we are, right? They said that they're going to continue supporting the ICC. So this actually may be the rift that causes the dragon to turn on the whore, and we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that shortly as well. It says, of course, as the host country, we have a responsibility to guarantee the unhindered functioning of the criminal court at all times, and we will keep doing that. Schoof told reporters, describing the move as a disturbing signal and very regrettable, with potentially significant implications for the ICC's independence and ongoing investigations, right? So they said, look, hey, we got to make sure that this ICC, does not get shut down, because they're hosted here. We are kind of responsible for their safety, right? The Netherlands stands by the ICC. We will continue to support it. We are the host country. We are also proud of the Netherlands and also of The Hague as a city for peace and justice. The ICC is an explicit part of that, and we will do everything we can to ensure that the ICC can fulfill its tasks. All right, so let's go ahead and talk a little bit about each of these articles as well before we get into the scriptures. So while this is going on, and while there's still a ceasefire in Gaza, the Israeli army demolishes homes in Jenin and continues the raids across the West Bank, right? So when the ceasefire started, all right, that didn't mean, hey, the Israeli army is going to stop their campaign that they're doing in the region. No. The ceasefire was only in Gaza. They said, hey, okay, we're going to take them troops out of Gaza, and we just going to move them to the West Bank. We just going to go hard there, all right? The Israeli army has demolished several Palestinian homes in the Jenin refugee camp as it continues the deadly raids across the occupied West Bank that it launched on January the 21st. As soon as the ceasefire was established, they said, hey, we got to stop focusing our energy on Gaza because it's already destroyed. Let's move to the West Bank. Let's destroy the West Bank now. Explosions echoed throughout the camp overnight as Israeli forces demolished the civilian homes, Wafa, the official Palestinian news agency, reported on Friday. All right. So it said witnesses said that the Israeli forces reinforced their presence around the camp and conducted intensive drone surveillance. The army also continues to besiege Jenin Governmental Hospital, having bulldozed the main entrance and the main road leading to it earlier in its raids. All right, so remember, this is a refugee camp, all right, in Jenin, and civilian homes. All right, so this is the refugee camp and civilian homes that they're targeting. And just like the state of Israel loves to do, they besieged the hospital. All right, they say, look, the hospital's healing people. We trying to kill people and y'all trying to save them. We can't have that. That's what the state of Israel has been doing. That's what they're about. All right. As the ICC had said, hey, these people are war criminals. They should be arrested for their war crimes. They ain't stopped that. And of course, Trump said, let them keep doing it, ICC. How dare you even speak up against it? It's crazy. All right, this is the world that we live in. All right. Earlier this week, it carried out the demolition of residential blocks in Jenin for the first time since 2002. As reported by Jenin Governor Kamal Abu al-Rub. The Israeli military offensive, which launched 2 days after a ceasefire was agreed in Gaza, has targeted Jenin City, its refugee camp, and surrounding towns, killing 25 Palestinians, according to the Palestinian Ministry of Health. Right? So, 2 days after the ceasefire in Gaza, they said, hey, let's move all the troops to this refugee camp. All right, and hospitals and civilian homes. Nearly 90% of the camp's population has been forcibly displaced, with many seeking refuge in 39 villages and towns across Jenin Governorate. Again, strange. Israeli forces also stormed several areas in the Ramallah Governorate. I keep saying government. That's just what I'm going to keep saying. And assaulted and detained 2 Palestinians in the old city of Hebron as they were distributing bread. Hebron is in the state of Israel. I don't know. That's not the West Bank. I wonder if the old city of Hebron is different than Hebron proper. But anyway, in Beta, south of Nablus, Israeli forces assaulted ambulance crews during a raid, wounding a paramedic, according to the Palestine Red Crescent Society. Right, so the Red Crescent Society would be their equivalent of the Red Cross. Right, these are medical professionals that they're wounding a paramedic, and they assaulted ambulances. Right, so like they don't care about harming the innocent. They don't care about only going after terrorists. That's PR, so you can understand. That's trying to save face. They never cared about that. This is an all-out term that's been thrown around here, genocide. That's what it is. They are trying to just wipe out all the brown people in the region. initially, like, there are brown, like, Israelis, right? But they're starting with the Muslims first. Just take them out, and then they'll go from there. Because it's not like these Ashkenazi Jewish people. They at first they did not accept brown people to be like equals in the state of Israel. They did not view it that way. They wanted them to come in and populate the country, right, and become citizens, but they would be second class citizens, right? And then it's only here recently. And you could say they haven't even really done it to a full extent of, giving them full citizenship. But anyway, equal treatment and whatnot. But anyway, Israeli soldiers fired stun grenades directly at the ambulance, damaging the vehicle as it was responding to an emergency, it said. So we also have a military assault on Tulkarem, offensive end to bus. I'm just going to try to read through this very quickly. For the 12th consecutive day, Israeli forces also continued their wide-scale military assault on Tulkarem City and its refugee camp in the western West Bank, causing extensive damage to infrastructure and civilian property. Over the past few days, the Israeli army has arrested dozens of Palestinians, forced hundreds of families to flee their homes, and killed 4 Palestinians, including a child and a journalist. Right, so they, forcing migration and killing people who won't leave or who can't get out in time. Israeli forces have also turned Palestinian homes in Tulkarem and its camp into military outposts after evicting their residents. Witnesses told Turkey's Anadolu news agency that the Israeli army carried out mass arrests in eastern Tulkarem City. Wafa reported that the Israeli army continues to besiege Tabet Governmental Hospital. It is also occupying the adjacent Adawiya commercial complex, having converted it into a military base and surveillance post. Tulkarem Governor Abdullah Kamil confirmed in a statement that 85% of the camp's population had been displaced due to the Israeli military assault. All right, so 85% of the camp has been, dispersed and displaced. In the northern West Bank, for the 6th consecutive day, the Israeli army continued its offensive in Tamun and the Farah refugee camp in Tubas Governorate. Israeli forces have been conducting house-to-house searches in Tamun under the cover of airstrikes with drone attacks targeting various locations in the town. While no casualties have been reported in Tubas, residents are suffering from severe shortage of supplies and a near total power outage, right? So this is one of the tactics that Joab Gallant used. I don't think he's currently the defense minister, but it's the same tactics where same type of siege tactics, which is basically cut off the resources to the area. And the people will starve to death or die out on their own. You don't necessarily have to kill all of them, like literally with guns and knives and whatnot. Excuse me. The Israeli army has also made many arrests and conducted interrogations of Palestinians in the area. In the Farah camp, sources reported that Israeli forces targeted infrastructure, cutting off electricity and water supplies to most residents, right? And cutting off electricity is like, you may think, so they got to be without power or whatever. But like if somebody's on life support and you cut off the electricity, that person dies, right? So that can have a major effect on things. So that's what's currently going on with the Israeli government. As Trump says, hey, the ICC, they're going too far, right? How dare you even say the Israeli government, or how dare you even say Bibi Netanyahu is a war criminal, right? But also while this is going on, Zelensky offers a mineral partnership to the U.S. All right, he said, Zelensky says, let's do a deal, offering Trump mineral partnership seeking security, right? And these things aren't related only in that it's all leading to World War III. And as you can see, my ad blocker is kind of working overtime here on Reuters page. They really and they still ain't even getting all of them. Let's I'm trying to pause this video. It won't even let me do it because, again, ad blocker working overtime. What is and it's still not even, man, this new ad blocker I got sucks unless it's YouTube. Then it's good, but everywhere else it sucks. Anyway, we don't need to read this article. We already read the others, okay? So yeah. Just know Zelensky is begging and pleading that Trump helps in the Ukraine war and doesn't side with Putin, but instead sides with Zelensky. All right? So with that, let's get into the scripture. So I said that the veil is being lifted, right? So in Isaiah 47, it talks about the veil being lifted, but in a different way, all right? So the thing about the here in these last days, in Daniel 12, and we're not going to get this scripture, but in Daniel 12, it talks about how knowledge would be increased, right? That's your social media. That's your easy access to all sorts of information, all right? And you know, people use social media to stay in their bubbles, to stay dumb, right? That's what your algorithm is made for, is to keep you dumb, right? But your phone and the internet in general can be used to make you the most intelligent person that has ever been, basically, because nobody has ever had access to the information that we have access to now. We should use that, right? We should use that to learn, use that to grow in knowledge and in wisdom, right? Specifically concerning the scriptures, right? We have access to Bible Hub, for example. We have access to Bible Gateway is another good one, all right? And all these resources, we have access to, you know, Bible dictionaries that we can buy to learn to study with. You know what I'm saying? We got access to all these different things. So we should take advantage of that instead of, you know, and I'm not saying don't have a physical Bible. I have several, all right? So get physical books as well, all right? Because you never know when an EMP or you know, just the people who run the internet in general could shut it all down, right? So get your physical books as well. But what I'm saying is it's easier to access those things now. You can go to Amazon and get a litany of books, right? For like $100, you can get like 10 different books. I ain't talking about, you know, your Harry Potters and your Twilights. I'm talking about like historical books, all right? You have access to that now, whereas you couldn't have that in the past, all right? So with the knowledge being increased, it used to be, you know, 50 years ago that everyone thought America was in the right. It was very few people who actually understood what was going on and understood global politics and knew what America was doing. Everybody just supported America in its endeavors, right? Unless you have a situation like Vietnam where everybody saw that, hey, their relatives was going over there to die for no reason, basically. But now everybody kind of sees what America is doing. Right? The veil has been lifted. And here in Isaiah 47, starting with verse 1, it says, "Come down, sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon," meaning mourn. That's what sit in the dust is talking about, because in ancient Israel, one of the customs of mourning would to be to put on sackcloth and to sit in ashes, sit in dust, and sprinkle that upon your head, show the people that, hey, like I'm in a destitute situation, right? Sit on the ground. There is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans, meaning your kingdom is gone, all right? Your rulership is gone, all right? For thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate, right? So we see that America is not the upholder of, you know, free speech and democracy and human rights worldwide. We see that. America does not and never has really cared about those things, all right? Now, I'm not talking about individual American people. I'm talking about the American government has never cared about those things. The American military never cared about those things. All right? Take the millstones and grind meal, saying, get to work. Uncover thy locks, make bare the leg, uncover the thigh, pass over the rivers. Thy nakedness shall be uncovered. Yea, thy shame shall be seen. And that's kind of the whole point of this, the veil being lifted, right? Your shame will be seen. The things that you've tried to do in secret and in the dark, they're being exposed now. Everyone sees what you're up to now. Everyone sees how you are now. All right? You say the same thing in Luke, in the book of Luke. Where are we at? In the book of Luke, come on now. Luke 8. I think it's 8 and 17. I'll have to look. It may be 14. Luke 8 and 17. Is this what it is? Yes. Luke 8 and verse 17. It says, "For nothing is secret that shall not be made manifest, neither anything hid that shall not be known and come abroad." You see that right there? So everything that's done in the dark will be brought to the light. All right? Everything that's done in secret will be made manifest. All right? So all the things, all the wicked things, all the evil things that the U.S. has done, specifically the CIA and how they've done things, there's YouTube videos on that now. There's YouTube videos that you can watch on people bringing out things that the CIA has done in the past, right? What the U.S. military has done in the past, right? It's never been because of, righteous moral reasons. Not since never. I was trying to think of a case, even with World War II, America didn't even join World War II because of righteous and moral reasons. They just so happened to be on the right side of history with that one. All right. So yeah, nothing that America has ever done has ever been morally righteous, right? For the right reasons, right? That's not how they operate. They operate based on what's in America's best interest. All right, that's how they operate. And for Trump right now, what's in America's best interest is to put sanctions on the ICC because they are trying to go against America's greatest ally, the state of Israel. All right, and even though that turns the whole world against America, Trump don't care. He's got too much pride to see how that will affect America down the line. He does not care. All right. So, all this is building up. All this is building up to World War III. All right. That's what all this is building up to. That's what all this is building up to. All right. Joel, the 3rd chapter, and yeah, I'll start here. I'll start here with Joel 3. Start with verse 1. All right. It says, "For behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem," right? So when God will deliver his people from captivity. And he's specifically talking about the southern kingdom here. I should have turned this on silent. Y'all forgive me. I should have turned this on silent. Let me go ahead and turn it on silent. Why send me that? Anyway, when God specifically, he's talking about the southern kingdom here. Joel was from the southern kingdom, right? So he's talking about delivering the southern kingdom, all right? What we know as so-called blacks today, all right? "I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat." All right, so the valley of Jehoshaphat, also known as the valley of Megiddo. In this chapter, it refers to it again as the valley of decision. All right. And it's specifically called the valley of Jehoshaphat because when you read the history of Jehoshaphat, Jehoshaphat was a southern kingdom king, right? He was a Judite king who had alliances with the northern kingdom, right? He dealt with the northern kingdom brothers. Even though the northern kingdom was in sin at the time, he still tried to ally with them. And the valley of Jehoshaphat is specifically in northern kingdom territory, right? So it's in the northern part of the state of Israel, all right? And so he said, "I'm going to bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land." Is that not how the land looks today? Is it not very parted? All right. Let's see if I can find a map of it today. I believe I do have this here. Where is it at? Israel in modern times. Come on now. I know I have it here. There we go. Palestine map. So as you see, here's how it looks today, right? This is present time. You see how the land is parted? You see how the land is parted, all right? That didn't take shape until recently, right? Since 47. All right, since 1947, 1948, and as you can see there, that's how the land has been parted. All right. So, and they split Jerusalem like right down the middle. All right, the holy city of God, they split right down the middle. Ridiculous, man, ridiculous. All right. So they parted the land. So this lets you know that in the last days, God's people would be scattered among the nations. All right? That's not God's people in the land. All right? It's not God's people in the land. In fact, I'm going to show this in the Old Testament and the New Testament, just in case anybody is tripping on this. Yeah, in Revelation 2 and 9, it's saying, hey, them Jewish people over there, they are not God's people. They're not really Jews. They're descendants of converts. In Revelation 2, starting with 9, I know thy works, and tribulation, and poverty, but thou art rich, right? So God said, look, I know how my genuine people, right? My 12 tribes are actually in poverty right now, but spiritually you are rich. And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan, right? So he said, look, those people that claim to be the Jews, they're really the devil, all right? They're not really his people. Jew actually means something. Jew is short for Judah, which means God's praise, all right? God said, look, they cannot be my praise because they are wicked and evil. They're doing wicked and evil things. I never claimed that they were my people, all right? So he said, look, they're not the Jews. All right. In Revelation 3 and 9, we'll get to that here in a minute. First, I want to get in the Old Testament. I might come back to Isaiah 47, but I want to get in the Old Testament where God said literally the exact same thing as far as them people that's in the land currently not being the Israelites. All right. And where's it at right here? I'll start with verse 4 here in Ezekiel 36, starting with verse 4. It says, therefore, ye mountains of Israel, right? So he's talking to the land of Israel. Hear the word of the Lord God. Thus saith the Lord God to the mountains and to the hills, to the rivers and to the valleys, to the desolate wastes and to the cities that are forsaken, which became a prey and derision to the residue of the heathen that are round about. You see that right there? So God said, look, the land has become a prey to the heathen. All right? It's not the Israelites that's in the land currently. All right? There's a remnant that's there because there's a remnant of Israelites in all nations. But it's not the people who's running things over there. All right? Verse 5. Therefore, thus saith the Lord God, surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen and against all Idumea, right? Idumea being a Greek and Roman word for Edom. That's Edomites that's ruling the land right there, all right? Which have appointed my land into their possession, right? That would be your Bibi Netanyahu. That would be your Joab Galan. That's Edomites, all right? That's not Israelites, all right? With the joy of all their heart, with despiteful minds to cast it out for a prey, right? The land, they are predators and the land has become a prey to them, all right? I want to read 6 and 7 because I'm just reading it here. I want to read it. Verse 6 says, prophesy therefore concerning the land of Israel, and say unto the mountains and to the hills, to the rivers and to the valleys, thus saith the Lord God, behold, I have spoken in my jealousy and in my fury, because ye have borne the shame of the heathen, because the land has carried the shame of the heathen. Therefore, thus saith the Lord God, I have lifted up my hand. Surely the heathen that are round about you, they shall bear their shame. You see that right there? So, the heathen are going to be ashamed in that day. The heathen will be ashamed in that day. All right, verse 8. But ye, O mountains of Israel, ye shall shoot forth your branches and yield your fruit to my people of Israel, for they are at hand to come. You see that right there? So the real Israelites going back to the land, and the heathen will bear their shame. That's what Revelation 3 is talking about here. Revelation 3 and verse 9 says, behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie, right? Those Jewish people today. Behold, I will make them to come and worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee. You see that right there? So the real followers of Christ, the real Israelites, they going to have to bow down, right? Come and worship before thy feet. And to know that God has chosen the real Israelites, what we call blacks, Latinos, American Indians, and the dispersed, scattered around the world. Today, the Jewish people are going to have to say, look, we were never the Israelites. Y'all are the ones that's the Israelites. All right? That's what they're going to have to say. Hey, we were never God's chosen. Y'all are the ones that's God's chosen. All right? And Christ said the same thing. Christ said the same thing as far as the land being taken over by the heathen. Christ said the exact same thing. All right? In Luke 21, because we're reading this here in Joel, and we're about to see exactly what Christ says here in Joel. All right? So, in Luke 21, starting with 20, and when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Right? So Christ is warning the people, hey, when Rome comes, y'all can't fight against them. All right? They're too powerful for y'all. Y'all got to leave. All right? Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, right? So the closest mountains, I would say, that are outside of Judea at that point would be like Sinai and the ones in Egypt. That's the ones he's referring to, all right? So flee to the mountains, those would be the mountains of Egypt. Those were the closest mountains, which were the opposite direction of Rome, right? Because Rome was coming from the north and from the west. So, hey, he said, don't run that way, run south. All right, flee to the mountains. And let them which are in the midst of it depart out, right? And tell everybody else to leave too. And let not them that are in the countries enter therein too, right? So when it comes to the feast days, don't go back. I know the commandment says that go to Jerusalem for the feast days, or rather the custom says go to Jerusalem for the feast days, but don't do that, all right? For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled, right? So he said, look, all the prophecies got to come to pass. Like one of the prophecies we just read in Ezekiel 36. Hey, the heathen got to take the land. All right? But woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days, right? Because it's hard to run and carry a baby. For there shall be great distress in the land, and wrath upon this people. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, right? The people that stayed in Jerusalem got killed. And shall be led away captive into all nations. All right, and that's what ended up happening. He said, look, the curses of Deuteronomy 28 got to come upon the people. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. Right, and that's where we're headed to, the times of the Gentiles being fulfilled. All right, but Jerusalem currently trodden down by the Gentiles. They parted the land, as we read in Joel. All right, so as I described, verse 21 is making reference to the followers of Christ fleeing into Africa. All right, if they heeded Christ's advice, then they fled into Africa in those days. All right, that's why Ethiopia was one of the first Christian nations. And not only because of the high population of Jews within the city, but also because of missionary work done and whatnot. But this shows you how a large population of Jews enter into Africa, right? And there were, even before then, you read in Zephaniah, there was a large population of Israelites in Africa, all right? But anyway, here in Joel, that's here where we get to the point. I will also gather all nations and bring them down to the valley of Jehoshaphat, and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. And they have cast lots for my people, right, held auctions, and have given a boy for a harlot and sold a girl for wine that they might drink, right? So they sold a boy and made him be a breeder, right, on the plantations, right? They made him be a breeder, and sold a girl for wine, right? They had them as bed wenches that they might drink, right? Verse 4, yea, and what have ye to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon? So that'd be your Africans. And all the coasts of Palestine, right? The Palestinians are mostly Ishmaelites. All right. Will ye render me a recompense? Right. So Ishmaelite Arabs and Africans. He said, what did I do to you, Africans and Arabs? Are you trying to pay me back? And if you recompense me, swiftly and speedily will I return your recompense upon your own head. He said, look, if you're trying to come against me, that's not going to work out for you. All right. You're trying to come against my people, that's not going to work out for you. All right. Because ye have taken my silver, my gold, and have carried into your temples my goodly pleasant things, the children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians, that you might remove them far from their border. You said it right there. So he said, look, you Africans and Arabs, you sold my people to the whites. And that's exactly what happened during the transatlantic slave trade. This was written about 500 years before Christ. This was written about 2,000 years before any of that happened. Yet here it is recorded in the Bible. All right? Because the Word of God is a true book. And it tells you specifically how things would unfold. And it still tells you what's going to happen here in these last days, as we read in verse 2. Right? He said, I will gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel. And let me just make it plain here. When he said plead with them, Christ is not going to come back and start talking to everybody, hey, please be nice. Please be nice to my people. That's not what he's talking about. All right? When he said he will plead with them there for his people, this is what he's talking about when he's going to plead with them. All right. So this is Isaiah 66, starting with 15. For behold, the Lord will come with fire, and with his chariots like a whirlwind, to render his anger with fury and his rebuke with flames of fire. For by fire and by his sword will the Lord plead with all flesh. So the Lord is going to plead with all flesh with fire, that's nuclear fire, right, from missiles, and death, that's his sword, all right? That's how the Lord will plead with all flesh. And the slain of the Lord shall be many. That's how he's going to plead with all flesh, is by killing the wicked. You don't want to hear God? You don't want to do what he says? Okay, you're going to die. That's judgment from God. That's what he's bringing to the earth. That's what World War III is leading to, is culminating with the return of our Lord Christ Jesus, all right? So, from there, because it did mention the UK and France and Germany not siding with the US on this particular issue with the ICC. That could be. I'm not going to say that that officially is the break with the alliance that the US has with European nations, but it could be a precursor to it. So where is this at? Because this is talking about, let's see. Starting with verse 3 here, I'm just going to jump around a bit. So it says, so he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. All right, so the 7 heads and 10 horns, the 7 heads are the different European colonial empires, and the 10 horns are the nations that rose up out of those European empires. All right, so first you had Greece, Rome, Spain came with the Renaissance after Rome fell. This is talking about the same thing as Revelation 12 and Revelation 13. The scarlet colored beast, the red colored beast, red like Esau, right, took over the world. So Greece, Rome fell, Spain rose back up and at the Renaissance. All right, and then you had France also became a global empire. Germany, as well as the Dutch, that's part of Germany. Germany is not Germany. All right, they don't call themselves Germany. Germany is Deutschland, right, the land of the Dutch. All right, and then you have like Russia and Great Britain. All right, so those would be the heads, and you had 10 nations rise up out of that. Came the EU, 10 common markets, and whatnot. All right, so that's the beast, right? Those European empires, and the whore is riding up on the back of the beast, right? U.S. came from all those European empires, right? Even the U.S. itself started out as the 13 colonies of the British Empire, right? So the whore rides on the back of the beast, right? That's what it's going into. All right. Let's see. Scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, right? So they always blaspheming God. They never do what's right. They call themselves Christian, but they're not doing what Christ did, not saying what Christ said, right? They're not living like Christ, having 7 heads and 10 horns. So jumping down, you see in verse 5, and upon her forehead was name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth, right? That is America. Now, as we read in Isaiah 47, the shame, the nakedness of America is being discovered. People realize that, oh, this is Babylon. This is a wicked country, all right? So let's see. Because later on it says, verse 16, verse 15, I'll start with 15. And he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and tongues and nations and tongues, right? If you just look up American embassies and everywhere that they're located, or even American military bases all over the world, all right? In fact, let's look at that real quick. Map. Let's do American embassies first. Let's see, U.S. embassies. Yes, map of U.S. embassies. Images. So this is where the whore sits, on many waters. That's good right there. So this is where the whore sits, on many waters. Come on now. Google is screwing me over here, but y'all see this right here. Because I'm sure I'm down here, but yeah, y'all see this. The whore sitting on many waters. All right, so let's go map of U.S. military bases. Global military bases. This one's pretty good. You see all these different dots? All these different dots are military bases around the world. All right. That's the whore sitting upon many waters. All right. It says, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. Right. So the nukes, a lot of the nukes that's going to burn up America are coming from these European nations. Right. So now this could be fulfilled with just Russia, right? Because we know those Russian nukes are going to come over here. It's almost undoubtable at this point. But we saw there is a divide now between UK, France, Germany, and the U.S.'s international politics, right? So they could even turn on the U.S. I don't expect there to be a major shift in it when World War III breaks out. I do kind of expect the UK, France, and Germany to even be on the side of the U.S., at least initially. But I guess we'll see how that unfolds. All right? And I will close it out with... Well, hold on. Wait a minute. Let's finish out these verses here. What is there anything good here? Verse 17. For God hath put it in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree, and to give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of God should be fulfilled. Right? To be their allies until the time. Right? Basically. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigned over the kings of the earth. Right? So that's America. Right? We just saw that with the U.S. military bases, with the embassies. If you know anything about global politics over the past 70 years, then you know that, okay, America has been ruling over the earth for around, maybe even more than that, but definitely since then, all right? So let's read Revelation 16. It's been a minute since I've read this, and I want this to be in the minds of the people, all right? But they are the spirits of devils working miracles, miracle being the miracle of modern technology. The miracle of modern science, I should say. That's the term. That's the term that is used often. And when you may say, well, I've never heard that. If you start to look for it, you're going to notice it. When people say, oh, it's a miracle of modern science, right? That's what a lot of people say. For example, when doctors use certain medicines, they'll say, oh, it's a miracle, right? Or when people invent something new and innovative, they'll say, oh, it's a miracle of modern science, right? When you start looking for that, you're going to notice it. You're going to hear it more often, all right? Or they'll say it's miraculous, right? When they're talking about some sort of scientific invention or scientific achievement, all right? Which go forth into the kings of the earth and of the whole world to gather them to the battle of that great day of God Almighty, right? That's what it's all heading towards. That's what it's all building to. The battle of that great day of God Almighty. Behold, I come as a thief. Blessed is he that watcheth and keep his garments, lest he walk naked and they see his shame. All right, so when it's talking about keeping your garments, and I've read this before, y'all should get it by now. All right, Isaiah 61. In Isaiah 61 and verse, I think it's verse 10. Let's see. Verse 10. I will greatly rejoice in the Lord. My soul shall be joyful in my God, for he hath clothed me with the garments of salvation. He hath covered me with the robe of righteousness, as a bridegroom deck himself with ornaments, and as a bride adorn herself with her jewels. Right? So the garments, it's talking about the garments of salvation and the robe of righteousness. That's what it's referring to. All right. So blessed is he that watch and keep his salvation, keep his righteousness, keep God's commandments, in other words. Lest he walk naked and they see his shame, right? It will be a shame to you if you do not. And he gathered them together into a place called in the Hebrew tongue Armageddon. That Armageddon is the same as the valley of Jehoshaphat. All right, it is the valley of Megiddo. That's what it's making reference to. All right, I'll just show it on a map real quick so y'all got it. Let's see. I know it shows it on this one. This shows basically all the cities. So, Valley of Megiddo. I don't know if y'all can see this. Let me zoom in just a little bit more. Plain of Megiddo, Valley of Jezreel, all this is the same because the city Megiddo is, how does this not show the city Megiddo? It shows the plain of Megiddo, which as you see is in a valley, but it don't show, it don't show the city of Megiddo. In this one, it actually shows the city of Megiddo. I don't know why it's not showing it in this one. As you see, Megiddo is up here. That's Megiddo. Yeah, here. All right, that's Megiddo right there. Am I just looking over it or something? No, it does not show Megiddo on here. Crazy. But anyway, it does show the plain of Megiddo, right? The valley of Megiddo, valley of Jezreel, all this the same thing. All right, that's where everybody's going to be gathered to in World War III. All right? And on a modern map, because as you can see, it's just southeast of Carmel. Carmel is the mountain that kind of juts out right here in northern Israel, right? So on a modern map, that would be like right here, just north of the West Bank. All right, that's where it's all going to head to, right there, just north of the West Bank. All right, so that is the world war that's coming. All right, but what can we do about that? Just remember, right? He comes as a thief, so blessed is he that watch and keep his garments, meaning keep your righteousness, keep your salvation, which is the commandments of God. All right, lest he walk naked and they see his shame.